I think Sean O'Malley certainly is Dana White's son.
I feel like our videos pull in more views than this guy's video, and somehow he's got the whole UFC roster.
Oh, body the body.
We are the best MMA YouTube channel out there, so of course our rankings are going to be pretty accurate. What it do, Slaz Up crew? Today we're doing a little bit of a different video. I'm joined by two guests today.
Yeah, the worst guy's back.
And you have the super casual here to give the casual fans perspective on MMA.
Yeah, but pretty much what we're doing today is we're gonna be, the people have been asking for this. We're gonna be doing an industry plant tier list.
Yes, we have all been asking for this tier list, and finally it is here.
Yeah, we can't even read the comments without this being on the recommend. It's just flooded, absolutely flooded.
You guys have been spamming comments. I'm getting doxxed IRL. People are throwing bricks through my windows with industry plant tier list, written on them. So I figured I'd buckle. Usually I'd stand my ground, but here we are. Let's just get right into it. Let's start with Nina. Oh, actually, before we do that, let's introduce the tiers. So at the top level, we have Dana White's son. Moving down, we have Dana White Privilege, Fast Tracked, and Proven Contender. That's the least industry plant. So, let's just really get into it. Let's start with Nina Drama. What do you guys think of Nina Drama?
She's a proven contender. She's faced it all the contenders in the
yeah,
UFC.
she's had to go through like Alex Pereira, John Jones. It must be rough on her.
Yeah, for sure.
It's tough to say she's a proven contender though, because she clearly just lost to Tracy Cortez. So it's kind of tough to say she's a proven contender when she's got that big L sitting on her record recently.
Since she lost a journeywoman, Tracy Cortez, then she might be Dana White's son or daughter in this case.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for the group. But personally, she kind of just showed up out of nowhere. She's getting all these interviews, with Alex Pereira, John Jones. Either she has to be one of Dana White's kids, or she's doing some extra convincing to get these interviews. But do you guys have any objections if we just throw her right up here to start?
Absolutely
no.
Not. I think she's the quintessential Dana White's son and/or daughter.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on, this is Jaden Cable MMA. If you guys aren't too familiar, he's another MMA YouTuber. He has some nice fight guests on his show, like Joaquin Buckley, Terrence McKinney, Killin Salkild, Cedric Dumas. I've seen a lot of people call this guy Dana White's son, so I figured, you know what? If you got Nina Drama here, let's throw this guy on the industry plant tier list.
Yeah, I would agree. He's got to be an industry. I feel like our videos pull in more views than this guy's video, and somehow he's got the whole UFC roster in his videos as a feature. So that's kind of like there's got to be something going on.
Yeah, he's definitely got some connections. I think we should just throw him right up there with Nina. He might be Dana White's son.
Yeah, no objections from the casual here. I'm not super in the loop, and I haven't really heard of who this fella is. I've seen some clips on Instagram and X, and he's always interviewing some high-profile fighters. So there's something fishy up with that. I think he certainly belongs in the same tier as Nina Drama and co.
Yeah. Moving on, this is the worst guys. Can I say this is your favorite fighter? It's Gene Silva, man. Like.
He's got to be one of my favorites, yeah, for sure.
A certain kinship.
He's a crafty vet.
He is.
Yeah, he's a crafty vet. No, he's not a crafty vet. He's an up and coming contender. He's gonna smoke everyone and become a champ, and nobody can stop it. He's not an industry plant. He's that guy.
Yeah, but when you go to the industry plant side, this guy just got smoked by Diego Lopez, and he's fighting up the rankings again off the loss. He's fighting Arnold Allen, who's like what, number 6, number 7, something like that.
I wouldn't say smoked. Like, let's relax on the
He got
caught.
He got caught. Okay.
He got caught.
Right.
He was whooping that ass until
get dominated. He got caught.
Yeah, exactly.
He was doing.
With that being said, though, is there some sort of Dana White privilege at play via the Fighting Nerds extension? Of course, but I would argue that he's more in the fast track category. He has a couple exciting finishes, a couple good knockouts. He had that nice, ninja choke on
Bryce Mitchell.
Yeah. So I think this is a very a perfect example of someone being fast track, moving up the rankings after a loss.
Yeah, and
I'd agree.
He was doing good against Diego Lopez until he got caught. Well, except for the first round, he was kind of getting smudged on the ground. I do agree. I think he was just fast tracked a little bit. He shot a little too high up in the rankings. So I think fast tracked is a good tier with him. Any disagreements?
No.
Moving on, this is one of Miami's favorites. It's Colby Covington.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't say he's necessarily, sorry to cut you off there, but I wouldn't say he's necessarily too much of an industry plant because What do we draw the line? It's like, would we say McGregor's an industry plant? If we remember correctly, Kobe Covington was about to be cut from the UFC until he went on the mic and called, Brazilians filthy animals, and then, he shot up in popularity, and he kind of built off of that. So personally, I don't think he's much of an industry plant, but maybe you could argue a little bit of fast tracking.
I mean, to be on the other side of that argument, I think we really have to talk about his title shot against Leon Edwards. He was like a little inactive going into that fight, and even now he's still been inactive for like a year or two, even though he's number 12 ranked. So I think he has a little bit of a Dana White privilege once he kind of switched his personality for the camera. Getting some title. He got like 2 title shots against Usman, and then the one against um, Leon Edwards.
Yeah, for sure. And then, you guys know me. I'm a humongous Colby Covington fan, so I'm going to come in here with a little bit of bias. I think he's kind of a very awkward tweener here. I mean, you look at even his Brazilian call out. He had a bunch of contender fights. He had the 2 wars with Usman, so he's certainly a proven contender in that sense. But then you mentioned the Leon Edwards fast track title fight. It's kind of inarguable that he gets a title fight off of beating a super washed Colby, a super washed Jorge Masvidal, and then sitting on the sidelines, playing in the WSOP for a year straight. So I wouldn't object to him being in fast tracked or in proven contender. I think considering that he was the interim title holder and didn't get the title shot originally against T Wood in favor of Usman, I think that sort of disqualifies him from having Dana White privilege.
Mm.
So I think Colby's somewhere between fast tracked and proven contender.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw him probably at the end of fast tracked. We'll throw him behind Gene Silva. I think Gene Silva's a little more fast tracked, but you make some very valid points with that argument. Do we have any disagreements on this placement in the rankings?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's as between proven contender and fast track. He's had quite a lot of fights, and I mean, he was considered, if it wasn't for Usman being champ, he would have been the guy, he would have been the guy to beat. So I don't even necessarily agree with fast track. I low key would say proven contender because he's like, uh, you know, he was the interim title holder. He had those wars with Usman, arguably won the second fight, which
People forget,
I
man.
believed.
People
He was
forget.
up in,
Um,
he was up 3-1 in the first fight as well.
so yeah, but with that being said, he's not a guy who is like, yeah, was it a little early for the Leon Edwards fight? Sure, but what were you gonna do with that division? Who were you gonna put in there that was gonna bring more excitement than Colby Covington?
Okay.
So that's my argument.
Yeah, I could definitely see the argument for proven contender. I think we'll throw Covington down there. But if you want to talk about real industry plants, let's move on to Paddy Pimblett.
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure. I mean, we've been told since he entered the UFC, this guy was going to be a big star and a championship contender. So, and now he's fighting for the interim title against Justin Gaethje off a win
Over old
again.
man
Who
Michael
they be?
Chandler.
Yeah, old man Michael Chandler. So yeah, a little bit crazy there, but yeah, I think the bowl cut is definitely what made him, be one of the favorites.
um,
Oh, body the body.
Yeah.
Fucking starving, lad. I need a cheeseburger, lad.
you,
Look,
you
let's be real here. I
chorizo.
think I think it would be the understatement of the video to say that he is just fast tracked. I mean,
Mhm.
he's clearly has Dana White privilege. I mean, you go from losing to Jared Gordon, to getting shot up into the rankings to facing nothing but old washed up contenders. I mean, he fights Bobby Green, he fights Michael Chandler. Now he's
Mm.
fighting Justin Gaethje, another someone in the top 5 lightweight division that's not exactly in their prime. So I think Paddy Pimblett is a strong Dana White privileged tier
And
contender.
Yeah.
you mentioned the Jared Gordon fight, which many people, myself included, thought he lost. He should not be on this crazy lightweight win streak. So I do agree with you guys. Should we move him up to Dana White privilege?
I
Yes.
think so because also I feel like we've been psyoped as fans to believe that this is the guy. People are talking about, oh, him versus Ilya Taporia. What a sick fight that would be when I feel like this guy just comes in swinging with his chin in the air. He's, I think striking wise, he's quite overrated. And his grappling, he had that great submission against Bobby Green, but it's like that's Bobby Green.
Yeah.
It's like, are we supposed to believe that this guy is the guy who's going to challenge Ilya Taporia? It's like I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I don't have any disagreements with this placement. I think we should move on to Malcolm Wellmaker. What do you guys think about Malcolm Wellmaker?
Hmm. Yeah, he was a good. He seemed like I bought into the hype personally. I was like, I thought that he was like the next up and coming guy, and he still might be very good. I think he's a good striker. He got decisively outboxed in his last fight by the other construction worker guy. So I guess uh, I mean I wouldn't say he's been faster. I mean he hasn't really fought anybody like up in the rankings yet. He's kind of not really fought many people. He would more be like an industry plant type thing, just off of the hype that he's had. But he hasn't really shot up in the rankings, really, has he?
No, no, he hasn't had a fight up in the. He's just had like two kind of contender fights, not in the rankings.
Tough to say. I almost feel like, sorry to cut you off there, that Malcolm Wellmaker almost deserves his own category of fraud checked contender, fraud checked Dana White
Oh,
privilege. I mean, there's no
Yeah.
way we can call him a proven contender when his best win is Chris Moutinho in the UFC, and I don't think we can say he's fast tracked because he hasn't fought anyone in the rankings. So I think he's got to go in Dana White's privilege because we
Mhm.
don't. He gets this. He gets this huge pay-per-view opportunity off of like I said, beating Chris Moutinho in his last fight. So, and of course, stuff that Alexandre Topuria had to pull out, and we didn't get that matchup. But I just feel due to him, not being fast-tracked or a proven contender, I think he's got to go in our Dana White's privileged tier list of industry plants.
Yeah, I'd
I don't
agree with
hate
that.
that. That's not ridiculous to say that. Do we think he
Not
has
ridiculous.
more Dana White privilege than Paddy Pimblett though?
No,
Certainly.
no, no, not more.
Okay. Okay, I'm cool with that ranking. Let's move on to potentially one of the biggest industry plants of all time, Sean O'Malley.
Yeah, I'd say like my personal take on this is like obviously he has a really entertaining fighting style. Anybody that's going to be a flashy striker is going to be slightly favored by the fans and the UFC. I feel like Sean O'Malley we've been sold on this idea that he's the next guy. He's like basically Conor McGregor coming back. And I never really bought into that, and I don't think the fans did either because he's nowhere near as big of a star as Conor McGregor is, and neither will he be. It's like we were told he's this big rock star because he's got colored hair. But for that reason, I mean, I would put him all the way at the top just because he's been shoved down our throats so much
Yeah.
as the next Conor McGregor, even though he does not have nowhere near the charisma that a prime Conor had.
Yeah, absolutely no objection. Oh, excuse me. Wow, absolutely no objections from me here. I think Sean O'Malley is Dana White's son through and through. I mean, you go from an eye poke no contest against Pedro Munoz to fighting Jan to then fighting Aljo, and then you get Cheeto Vera as your first title defense when Marab is right there in in the workings.
Mhm.
I think Sean O'Malley certainly is Dana White's son. He has the probably out of all the fighters on this list has the most Dana White's privilege by far. So I think he's got to go. He's got to go up at the top.
Yeah, I agree with that placement. I don't have any objections. You mentioned that Peter Yan fight, how he got catapulted up to that shot on the rankings, and although it was a close fight, many people thought Peter Yan won that fight. I can see that argument, and getting a title shot against Aljo off a split decision fight that many people thought you lost, he's got to be Dana White's son. There's no way.
Yeah, for real. And then to get the Marab immediate rematch after taking a year, 13 months off. I think anyone who says he doesn't belong in Dana White's son category is out of their mind.
There's a good
Agreed.
placement. So let's move on to a Bellator fighter now in the UFC, Aaron Pico.
Yeah, this is a funny case. Because the thing about Aaron Pico is he had all this hype coming up as like a teen, and then he was, in the wrestling. We always hear about these NCAA wrestlers, and he had also boxing on his side, and he was supposed to be this protege who was going to be the best MMA fighter ever. And then he gets into Bellator, and he gets chinned. He goes on a win streak and then he gets chinned again. And that's kind of like what you get with Aaron Pico. He's good, he's explosive, but he lacks fight IQ. And he has a suspect chin. And anytime he gets touched up nicely, he goes down. And yeah, because he's been sold as this, the next, goat of MMA, and he's been chinned now multiple times. I think 3 times in his career so far, completely out cold. Um, I would have to say, at the bare minimum, Dana White privilege.
Yeah, I don't hate that. Do we think he has more privilege than Malcolm Wellmaker or Paddy Pimblett though?
Well, he got who did he fight in his first fight? He fought Lerone Murphy, who was like on a win streak. He was like I think 17-0 at the time of
Yeah, he was like number
Aaron Pico fight. He
6.
was Yeah, he was like high up in the rankings, and for a Bellator guy that's coming, into the UFC to immediately get a, top contender that's undefeated, that's got to be really high on the Dana privilege, above Malcolm Wellmaker. I would definitely say that.
Not ridiculous to say that.
Interesting. I actually would like to offer a rebuttal to that. I think Malcolm Landmaker actually should be ahead of Aaron Pico, and the reason why I'll say that is, while he wasn't, the most successful Bellator fighter per se, like you said, he goes on these win streaks and then gets chinned. Like he at least had some sort of name. He at least had some sort of hype, some sort of buzz, some sort of excitement around him. He was calling out Volkanovski a lot, and it seemed like, the path that the UFC was hoping for was that he was going to go and beat Lerone Murphy, and then fight Volk for the title. So I think you could argue that, because he had that sort of quote unquote Bellator aura, if you will, that sort of, unknowns, Bellator aura coming with him, that, he's more deserving, I guess, of a high profile pay-per-view slot than someone like a Malcolm Wellmaker. It's tough to say. I think, the UFC was certainly hoping that Lerone Murphy was going to lose to Aaron Pico.
Hmm.
But at least Aaron Pico has going for him that he's at least he's certainly an industry plant. He's definitely got that going for him.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm the tiebreaker on whether or not he has more Dana White privilege than Malcolm Wellmaker. And voicing my opinion, I think Malcolm Wellmaker was a little more forced. Because like you guys said, he's had some wars in Bellator. He's proven his name a little bit. Even though he gets chinned every now and then. But Malcolm Wellmaker kind of came out of nowhere and had this big hype train and was forced into one of the bigger cards, that being the MSG card. So I think I'm gonna have to put Malcolm Wellmaker just a little bit ahead of Aaron Pico in this Dana White privilege category.
Yeah, I get that perspective. I'm not too mad at that. My only point was just because, Aaron Pico was never even a Bellator champion, and then all of a sudden we're expecting him to be a top contender in the featherweight division. I don't think that that was really realistic, and it was kind of crazy move. But as you guys said, I do agree because he had all this hype coming in, so that makes sense.
All right, well next up, we have Bo Nickel.
Yeah,
Wow.
Bo Nickel.
I mean, what can you even say? I mean, he's got one of the most engaging, exciting personalities in the UFC. He's the real he's really big into promoting himself outside. His podcast is great. He loves to pick berries and go hunting and hang out with the wife and whatnot. And he's got the NCAA dad wrestling fan base behind him. No, look, guys, let's be real here. He is absolutely Dana White's son. I mean,
Hmm.
he was the opening fight on UFC 300, I think, in his second or third fight in the UFC.
Yeah,
Um, he yeah, what else can you say about this kid? I mean, he's truly one of the craftiest vets in the game. I mean, who goes tit for tat with Paul Craig like that? I mean, it's kind of unreal.
not to mention
Yeah,
he was the opener for the 323 card until the fans backlash and booted him down to the top of the prelims.
It's a good point. I
yeah.
forgot about that.
Dude, I mean, we were sold on this guy being the next Hamza. He was saying how he could smoke Hamza and you'd just take him down and submit him because he's got all the credentials. But guess what? Your NCAA wrestling doesn't mean anything in far as MMA wrestling goes. It used to mean something. Right now, you have a guy who's not an NCAA champion in Rainer the Ritter. I mean, we saw how that fight went.
Yeah.
He kind of, just bullied him like everywhere, not only on the feet. It was like in the clinch situations. He was doing trips. He got on top. He like reversed position. He was just out grappling Bo Nickel. And then, for him to be phrased as this guy who's just gonna crush everyone because of his wrestling credential, yeah, he's definitely Dana White's son.
I mean,
I
look,
don't
you
hate
got to
that.
give him credit. Like, he looked a lot better. He improved after the Reino Dorita fight, and he got that nice head kick KO over Rodolfo Vieira. But I mean, let's not forget this is, he couldn't take Jamie Pickett down until he nut shotted him. I mean, then he goes and
Hmm.
faces the greatest tomato can of all time in Val Woodburn. He can hardly take Cody Brundage down, goes into a back and forth wrestling war. And then, like I mentioned previously, the Paul Craig tit for tat, you know, point striking on the outside. So yeah, no, he's certainly got to go into Dana White's son. He's the biggest industry plant in the UFC, maybe outside of O'Malley.
Above
Yep.
Nina Drama, though?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, because here's the thing, right? At least Nina Drama pumps out content for the UFC. Like Bo Nickel, all he does is get undeserved, pay-per-view shots against high-profile matchups that he shouldn't really get. They're gonna feed him cans until he works himself back up. Like, of course, Nina Drama. It's curious because she comes out of nowhere and has all these big interviews, but at least now, like it's sort of synonymous with Fight Week that she's gonna give some sort of BS interview with some fighter, and it's gonna be on the UFC and Power Slap's Instagram and whatnot.
I mean, also it's important to note that Nina Jama didn't really come out of nowhere. She was a model before. She was like in Playboy magazine. She was,
Is this true?
she was, yeah, no, she was. She was, yeah.
It's
Whoa.
true.
Yeah, it is true. So she did a lot of stuff before the UFC. I mean, she's quite old now. She's like mid-30s minimum. And so yeah, she's been on the scene for a really long time. She's not like this person that just kind of spawned. She did spawn as far as the MMA world is concerned, but she's been like I guess you could say like a D-list celebrity for like quite a long time.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I don't hate this placement, so let's just move on. We've got another fighting nerd. This time we got Mauricio Rufy.
Yeah, the GOAT, the best striker in the UFC, undoubted, nobody can argue. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, he definitely, bar minimum, fast tracked, if not Dana White's privilege. Getting to fight Benoit Saint Denis off a knockout from what's his name, Bobby Green, King Green.
King Green.
Yeah, that everybody's knocked out. I'm pretty sure Bobby Green gets knocked out by the win. So yeah, I think minimum fast tracked, if not Dana White privilege. I like Mauricio Rufy. I think he's really entertaining fight style. If he gets to have a striking exchange, I actually praise his striking really highly. I think he's really technically gifted. But yeah, definitely a hype job as part of the fighting nerds. So yeah, up to you guys.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you. I think he's kind of like on that middle ground between fast tracked and Dana White privilege because the guy's obviously super talented. Who does that to Bobby Green? But like you also said, he's kind of got some undeserved shots up the rankings. He got ranked after the Bobby Green fight, got number 15. I think he got fast tracked a little bit with the Benoit Saint Denis fight, but his Dana White privilege really shows that he's getting the Rafael Fiziev fight coming off that loss. Fighting up the rankings. So I think he's on that middle ground between fast tracked and Dana White privilege.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I was leaning, putting him in the fast track category, but like you mentioned, after he loses to Benoit Saint Denis, he's now fighting up in the rankings in a very, very favorable matchup against Rafael Fiziev. Like I was gonna give him the benefit of the doubt, right? Like, he has at least like you said, he's got a very exciting technical striking style. It's very fan friendly. So even if you were to take the fighting nerds plot armor out of the equation, like I think this guy would still have fans. But when you look at I don't think we can ignore the fighting nerds aura that comes with part of his hype, and then when he gets obliterated by Benoit Scam Denis and then is fighting up in the rankings on another pay per view. I think it's undeniable that he's got Dana White's privilege.
Yeah, I don't hate
Yeah.
that. I think we'll throw him at the very end of Dana White privilege. He's close to fast tracked, but he's done a little for Dana White. Moving on, we have Ilya Optoro Toptoro.
Idiot.
It's almost a contradiction in and of itself to even consider him for the fast track category because the dude fights once a year. Um,
Yeah.
with that being said, though, um,
Slow
it's tough.
tracked.
Yeah, right. It's tough to say though because it's like he did have a lot of wins on the come up in the UFC, and then he sort of became ultra fast track towards the tail end of his run now. But I think his performances have sort of proven that he's deserved it. I don't think he was nearly like as hyped of a prospect, way back when he was fighting like Ryan Hall, for example, or some of these other bums in the beginning of the UFC. So I'm honestly, I know he's super popular and whatnot. But I'm almost tempted to say that he's a proven contender.
I want
There's
to
a lot
bring
of
up
his.
the fact about his the reason I kind of decided to throw him into this tier list is the fact about him botting his social media following. I think Sean O'Malley was involved in kind of a similar thing. Maybe not. Maybe I'm reaching here, but Topuria was definitely caught botting, buying followers, botting his Instagram account. So let's talk about that for a little bit.
I think Ilya Taporia is set to be a bigger. He thinks that he's a bigger star than he actually is, and a lot of people like think that he's a bigger star than he is. Like he's the wannabe McGregor again. Everyone wants to be McGregor, but he definitely has bought it Instagram followers. Like that's undeniable. And I don't think he's even like the biggest. Like, I don't think he's the biggest star in the UFC. I would personally say even Charles Oliveira is a bigger star than Ilya Taporia. But it's undeniable that he deserves to be where he's at just because, doing what he does to, Charles Oliveira putting him out cold in the first round, knocking out Volkanovski, his performance against Josh Emmett, his performance against Bryce Mitchell, he's proven himself. He goes up a weight class, does it effortlessly, and I don't think that if it would be a crazy statement to say if I came on here and I said nobody in the UFC beats Ilya Taporia, that would not be a crazy statement to say.
At 155, of course.
In any weight
Oh,
class, heavyweight included.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate the placement of proven contender. I agree with you. I think he thinks he's Conor McGregor. He wants to be McGregor, and maybe his socials and his brand image are inflated a bit, but the guy's good, of course. Like, who does what he does to some of these legends? Holloway, Volk, Oliveira. Although the fights were AI, this guy's good. He's fought some contenders along his journey. Gotten some good wins. He's undefeated. I think he's the real deal. I'd say he's a proven contender as well.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, even if he is buying, a few Instagram followers, the dude still has 13 million followers on Instagram. Like he's ultra popular. A lot of his posts will, get 1, 2 million likes on them. So, he's incredibly popular. He's even more popular in Spain. So I think he's a quintessential proven contender here.
Next up, we have Jorge Masvidal.
Yeah, Mr. Street
Well,
Judas himself.
Street Judas himself, you still got that Obama phone?
Yeah, he definitely does. You saw that reaction from him. He definitely does. He had him one
Yeah,
in
he
his
was talking
pocket.
about that one. I mean, look, I mean, he's the guy's a bomb. Let's be real here. He fluked a win over Ben Askren, and then the BMF title fight, was all Nate Diaz was doing. He got dominated by Usman. He didn't get caught. He got caught and dominated by Usman twice. So this guy, I think he's either fast tracked or Dana White's privilege.
Yeah, I would say probably Dana White privilege, just because he had that blow up moment from Ben Askren, and then it's like all of a sudden he's one of the most famous ever, and you can't get away from Street Judas, even though he's really not that proven. Every time he's had a chance against like a really top elite guy, he's got beat.
Yeah.
So
And
trash.
people forget, man, this guy was getting pieced up by probably the craftiest vet of all time, Wonderboy Thompson. Getting knocked down.
Mhm.
He said recently on interviews that nobody's really caught him or tested his chin, unlike Kamaru Usman. But people forget, man, he was getting knocked down in that Wonderboy fight. I think it was at least once or twice. So I agree with you guys. I think he has Dana White privilege, but now the real issue is where do we place him in these rankings? Do we think he has more Dana White privilege than Mauricio Rufy or Aaron Pico? Where does he fall in this category?
Well, let's not forget the BMF belt was basically made for him. Like he like when they made the BMF belt, they had him in mind. Like they wanted him to be a belt holder so that he could translate his following, into UFC viewership because now he's a belt holder. So I would like put him damn near the top just because of that.
Yeah, I agree. I would put him between Patty Pimlet and Malcolm Wildmaker. I put him second in that Dana White's privilege. I mean, look, I mean, even after the Nate Diaz win, right? Like he gets the Masvidal one fight that happened during COVID, that happened during, the week's notice. Like that was big and hyped up. But then you look at his three fights afterward. He gets the immediate rematch with Usman, and then it gets a high profile. I think that was the headliner actually of the UFC Covington versus Masvidal, and then he goes and gets another, fight against an old head in Gilbert Burns. Like it's clear that the UFC continually and perpetually wanted this guy to get another win, to get him into another high profile matchup. we see it time and time again with other contenders. They start to go on these losing streaks and they get fed to up and comers. They didn't do that with Jorge Masvidal, so I think he's got to go very high up in Dana White's privilege.
Yeah, I like this placement for Masvidal. I think our viewers won't be too upset with this. So let's move on to another up and coming contender coming off a big win, Peyton Talbot.
I think he's the GOAT personally. The way he out wrestled Henry Cejudo.
Who
No, he's
does that to
definitely an industry
Cejudo?
plant. Yeah, he's definitely an industry plant. He should probably not have gotten to fight Cejudo like at the end. I mean, I think he's definitely improved quite a bit since he got beat by, was it Raoni Barcelos?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think was the guy. Yeah, so he looked quite terrible there in the grappling department, and ever since then he's obviously got quite a bit better. So I respect that. Um, I don't know if I want to say Dana White privilege, but I think he's minimum fast tracked.
Yeah, I agree. Building off that a little bit, obviously he's on like a 2 fight win streak right now. He was a good up and coming contender. He had like I think a unbeaten record, or he was on like a big win streak until he fought Raoni Barcelos and kind of got dominated. But then he racked up another win, and he had a little bit of Dana White privilege fighting number 10 ranked Henry Cejudo on a 1 fight win streak. I'll give him that, but. I mean, the kid has, at least some skill to beat old man Henry Cejudo, who does that to Henry Cejudo. So I'm going to agree with you. I think, although he does have some Dana White privilege, I think he's more towards the top of the fast tracked category.
Yeah, completely. I completely agree. I think I would put him at the top of fast tracked above Gene Silva there. I mean, look, like I think he has enough of a win streak, and it was against a bunch of unranked guys before the Cejudo fight. I think that I think if we look at some of the guys up in the Dana White's privileged tier, like a Aaron Pico or Mauricio Ruffy getting some of these more, I guess, undeserved shots up at the rankings. Like we look at Rufi, he's fighting Fiziev off of a dominating loss. Like at least Peyton Talbot after the Raoni Barcelos fight got a win against Felipe Lima and still has somewhat of a name on social media. Even coming into that fight, he was on a 3 fight win streak in the UFC, or 4 if you include the Contender Series fight. So I would say he's fast tracked, but has slightly less Dana White's privilege than some of the guys up above him.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a good placement for him. And if you guys don't have any objections, let's move on to the greatest welterweight of all time, CM Punk.
Uh,
Man,
I
just
mean,
how good
yeah,
is Mickey Gall?
yeah. I mean, yeah, you got to put him. I mean, probably like put Dana White's son like at the bottom or whatever, just because he came from WWE and he got like these massive paydays, probably way more than like some champions to fight in the UFC, even though he's like probably the worst fighter ever in the UFC. Like just everywhere in general. So yeah, he's got to go like at the very top for me.
Yeah, absolutely no disagreements here. I think if he's not Dana White's son, he certainly has some serious dirt on Dana White. The fact that they tried to make this work once, it clearly didn't work out. They gave him another shot. We got to give him the respect for having the courage to step into the ring, coming off of that professional wrestling career. But that doesn't dispute the point that he's an industry plant and he was kind of forced upon the fans.
Yeah, I don't hate this placement. I agree with you guys. I think he has some super obvious Dana White privilege, but he also had a little bit of a name from wrestling. But to be fair, his paydays and his 2 shots with the UFC, he's got to be one of Dana White's kids or something. So I think he's fine where he stands right now. Moving on, we have a little bit of a hot topic character between me and the worst guy. Obviously getting another title shot off a 1 fight win streak. It's Diego Lopez.
Yeah, Dana White's son. I don't care. He's the top of the list above O'Malley.
No,
Dana White's son,
no,
dude.
no.
This is what I'm telling you, dude. I'm telling you, we've been told that this guy is a future champion. He is not. Name me 3 fucking elite fighters that he's beat.
T City, baby.
Yeah, Brian Ortega, Dan
Oh, come
Ige,
on,
Gene
please.
Silva.
Who hasn't beat Brian Ortega? He's not an
Um,
elite win. Gene Silva was ranked like top
Johnson didn't
15.
beat Brian Ortega. I mean, look,
Wait,
I
who was
mean,
it?
let's talk.
Who was another?
Come on, man.
Moicano
He
didn't
beat, he
beat
beat
Brian
Gavin
Ortega.
Tucker. He beat Pat Sabatini, Sadiq
That's
Yusuf. I
not.
mean,
That is not. That is not an elite win. Pat Sabatini's an elite win.
Renato Moicano's a good win.
Oh, come on, guys. Let's be real
I
here.
mean, dude, people
Let's
forget
be
he had a
real.
split decision against
How many losses does he have?
7.
Oh my God. And this guy's getting another title shot after not doing anything.
I'm not disputing that the title shot is completely undeserved, but I think to say that he's in the same tier as a CM Punk or a Bo Nickel, I think is a bit ridiculous. Like he at least has some wins, and he had to build up his name value after after the Mavsar loss in his UFC debut. Like he had to go on a decent win streak to at least put himself into this. So I think the title shot against Volk, the rematch, is a complete disgrace. But I think to overlook the body of work that he did leading up to the first Volk fight and then the Gene Silva win afterwards would sort of be a disservice to the other guys in the Dana White's Sun tier list. So with that being said, I would probably put him, like I said, this title shot against Volk the second time is a complete disgrace. I would personally place him between Masvidal and Wellmaker on Dana White's privilege. But
Yeah, we've talked about this whole title shot fiasco in another video before, and I do agree with you. He doesn't deserve this title shot. He definitely has Dana White privilege for that, but like was said, he has some good wins in the UFC. He's proven himself in his fights. He's beat some contenders. He had a kind of a competitive fight with Volkanovski. Although he lost, it was like 3-2 in favor of Volkanovski. He was still in there fighting. He looked better than some people against Volkanovski, but getting this second title shot is completely Dana White privilege. I don't know what dirt he has on Dana White to do that, coming off the one fight win streak. So I think I'm
He's
gonna have to.
Mexican. I'll tell you that. That's why they want a Mexican champion. That's why he's getting a title shot.
Yeah,
That's why.
he's kind of in the same boat as like Yair Rodriguez in that division. So I will agree. He does have Dana White privilege. I would say he's closer to Dana White privilege than fast tracked. I think putting him between Wellmaker and Masvidal's a good spot though.
Yeah, I think he's totally trash.
Wow.
that's a crafty pick by me right there. That's all I'm gonna say. That was a nasty one-liner by me.
If we don't have any further points of discussion for Diego Lopez, I know we can have a whole video about this guy. Let's move on to Umar Nurmagomedov.
Ooh, yeah, this is a juicy one because I don't even know I mean, okay, so there's the title shot he got, which I felt like he deserved the first one. Just because he was what 18-0, he had a lot of hype. He obviously has that Nurmagomedov name, which the Nurmagomedov name might be why you say that he has like some level of Dana White privilege because obviously carrying that legacy, he's going to get a lot of hype, a lot of the fans from that Russia region. So he's obviously going to be a little bit fast tracked, which is kind of where I'd put him at. I would put him more towards the top of fast tracked. I would put him higher, like into the Dana White privilege if he got like another title shot right away, but that hasn't yet happened. So for that reason, I'd put him a little more towards the top of fast track.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I agree. He did deserve the first title shot against Marab, and he had a very competitive fight with him. And like you said, not to be a dead horse, if he had gotten another title shot, then sure he would have a lot of Dana White privilege. But after the Marab loss, he's racking up some wins right now before getting another title shot. He's fighting Figgy on 324. He just fought Mario Bautista, in a good win. So I think he's a little more fast tracked. I don't know if he's as fast tracked as maybe Peyton Talbot. I think I'd put him between Peyton Talbot and Gene Silva if I had to place him in that category.
It's an interesting point. I actually would lean him towards the bottom of fast track. I feel like he's almost borderline proven contender area. The reason why I wouldn't say he's a true proven contender is strictly due to the Corey Sandhagen fight. Um, you know, he was on a great win streak, but he was ranked so low in the rankings to go and fight Corey, who was ranked 1 or 2 or 3 at the time. With that being said, he still went out there and dominated that fight. And like you guys have said, he lost
Mhm.
that fight to Marab, but has since gone on to beat Bautista and is now going to fight another fight against another top ranked contender. Um, I think the only fight that was truly fast tracked for him at this point was the Corey Sandhagen fight. So with that being said, I think he's slightly less fast tracked than a guy like Gene Silva, but I don't think he's truly proven contender worthy just because of the Corey Sandhagen fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with that placement. I'm cool putting him below Gene Silva. Let's get to our last, contender for this industry plant tier list, and that is the man who got a title shot on his UFC debut, Kai Asakura.
Yeah, he's he's pretty. I mean, he had that similar thing to what what's his name, Aaron Pico had going on, where he had the, he was in Ryzen and he was, doing really well, and for that reason he was, rated really highly, and there was a lot of hype coming into him into the UFC. He's then since lost the title shot, and then he lost to Tim Elliott. So a little bit of a fraud checking there. Uh, I think he's a good fighter, but he's definitely got a good ounce of the Dana White privilege, just because of his past in Ryzen. Although, like, I get it, because the flyweight division is not the deepest division. So what are you really gonna do? Like, put him against like a no-name guy and waste all of that, potential viewership? I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, no, I think you bring up a very good point. I think there's actually a very clear spot for him here. I think he has to go at the top of fast track. I mean, it's there's no faster track to be tracked to, right? Like what
Hmm.
are these contenders being tracked to, fast track to? It's to a title shot, and for this for this pipsqueak to get a title fight in his first UFC fight, I think that's about as fast track as it gets. The reason why I won't say he has Dana White's privilege is, like you said, the flyweight division. That flyweight division was completely in shambles. Van hadn't had that fight with
Royval?
Royval yet, and Pantoja was knocking down contenders left, right, and center. So I think Kai Asakura's got to go at the top of fast track. I
Hmm.
think it's a little bit of a different situation than Aaron Pico, just because there were other contenders in the featherweight division at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
for sure.
I agree with you. I think he's between fast tracked and Dana White privilege. If you're looking at like Mauricio Rufy, I think his Dana White privilege is pretty close to Mauricio Rufy. I mean, like, giving him the title shot on his debut. Okay, there's like some argument behind it. They've given outside contenders from other organizations higher shots before. Like Yuri Prohaska was in Ryzen and he got like a number 7 shot. Some of these Bellator guys like Aaron Pico or Patricio Pitbull getting high shots, and like you guys said, the division was in shambles at the time, so it's not like, I mean, it's a little outlandish, but there can be some argument made. He did lose to Tim Elliott too, but that wasn't like an insane, crazy shot that he should have got after losing for the title. So I'm gonna have to agree with you. I think we'll put him above Peyton Talbot in fast tracked.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, the Tim Elliott fight, like after the loss to Pantoja, he was ranked, I think, like 14th or 15th in the flyweight division. And then, Tim Elliott, like they stylistically, the UFC is obviously hoping that he goes up there and chins Tim Elliott, but he's not an easy out by any means. So, it would have been easy for them to give Asakura like another just striker in the top five, top seven. I think the fact that they gave him Tim Elliott sort of knocks him out of Dana White's privilege territory.
Agreed.
All right, well, looking at this list, I think we did some pretty good rankings here. Obviously we cooked. We are the best MMA YouTube channel out there, so of course our rankings are going to be pretty accurate. But do you guys have any final thoughts before we close out this video?
No.
I'm just waiting for Baldy White to get on UFC Live and announce Tracy Cortez versus Nina Drama, and then for the interim
Pereira title?
reporters for the interim Shama belt, and then from
And
there,
I'm picking Nina.
Yeah, Tracy Cortez is kind of a journey woman, so I would have to favor Nina in that matchup. I think she knows
Well, it's
Pereira a
tough
little
though. I
more.
mean, Tracy Cortez has got that jujitsu. I mean, you see what she looks like on top. Like she's got good top pressure. She's got a good mount. It's just that top pressure might be tough to deal with. But if anyone can, it'd be Nina Drama.
All right, well, I'm pretty happy with that rankings. I think you guys at home are going to be pretty happy with this. That's all for today's video. I'm glad to have my two guests on this show today. And until next time, peace.